Hello guys, Claudia Boleyn here, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about the current political situation in the UK with the Tory party after Brexit happened, or Brexit was voted and it's due to happen whenever they're going to trigger Article 50, whenever that's going to be. We basically lost our Prime Minister. Our Tory Prime Minister, our Conservative Prime Minister David Cameron left because he was on the side of Remain and he lost, so he's gone. So there's been like a Tory leadership thing going on, and the two main candidates are two women called Theresa May and Andrea Leadsom. I should say that I'm not a Tory, so neither of these women would be my first choice anyway, but it's become a big deal because the person who's going to win out of these two in the vote is going to become our new Prime Minister. So it's kind of a big deal, and it's something that we should all care about no matter what party we're from, because this woman's going to be leading our country. So for anyone who's saying I'm not a Tory, it's not my business, I appreciate that I'm not a Tory, but you know, this person's going to be leading our country, so I think that it's right and proper that most people, no matter what party they're from, have an interest in this. But this video is going to be a little bit deeper than that. I'm not going to get into the deep political intricacies of what's going on with Theresa May and Andrea Leadsom. I should say that out of the two of them, I think I would prefer Theresa May because I think she's slightly more left, and I like Andrea Leadsom has the support of Nigel Farage and Katie Hopkins, so I'm kind of thinking maybe she wouldn't be the best Prime Minister. But I wanted to talk about the idea that we are going to have a woman as our Prime Minister, and this is a big deal in our country because we've only so far had one female Prime Minister, and that was Margaret Thatcher. And a lot of people think that just because I'm a feminist that I'm going to be like, yay, Margaret Thatcher, the first female Prime Minister. But actually, I'm very nay Margaret Thatcher because she was very right-wing and I didn't like a lot of her policy and what she did. It's weird because people assume, I think it's maybe people who don't have a knowledge on feminism or aren't really immersed in it that much. They assume that feminism's all just like, yay for women and nay for men. But it's really not like that at all. Like, I don't support a woman just because she's a woman. And to be honest, I would much rather have, like, just talking about the political situation in the UK, I'd rather have a white male, old, middle-aged guy called Jeremy Corbyn from the Labour Party as Prime Minister of our country than Theresa May or Andrea Leadsom because they're women. I think it's more about their policy. So it's not about, oh, it's a woman, we've got to support her. But there's two things, like, people are acting really weirdly about it. I was watching a segment on the news, and I think it was Sky News, and they were talking about the fact that two women have got to the shortlist of being the next Prime Minister. I make it sound sort of like, it's like America's Next Top Model or something. But they were playing, I think they were playing Who Run the World, Girls, like by Beyonce. And I just was thinking to myself, like, would you be playing that sort of music if it was two guys that had got into like the top two places? I don't know, maybe it was supposed to be a bit tongue-in-cheek, but it was a bit weird. I can't remember if it was exactly that song, but it was one of those like girl power songs. It was a good song. Maybe it was just an excuse to play Beyonce, and if that's the case, I will forgive them, because I too would take any excuse I could to play Beyonce on my news channel. But a lot of people are acting like this is, well, it's weird actually, because I feel like people who probably aren't feminists are acting like this is a great feminist victory, like, you're gonna get your second female Prime Minister, isn't that great? And I'm just sort of thinking, well no, not really, because feminism isn't about just supporting someone because they're a woman. I'm not thinking to myself, yay, ladies! I'm thinking to myself, what do these people stand for? What are their policies? And actually, if you look at their policies, I'm not a huge fan of either of them, because say we're looking at it from the perspective of just women's issues, like not wider political issues, which I'm also very interested in obviously, but if we're just looking at it through the lens of women's political issues, neither of them have been particularly supportive of women. Theresa May is big on, like, she's quite anti-immigration. Well, she wants controlled immigration, which I think is fair enough, but the way she's gone about it, she's not been that great with LGBT people and LGBT women in terms of, there's this weird thing that she's brought in where you have to prove that you're LGBT, otherwise you get deported in some cases, which is just weird and really not good for women. Also, Theresa May is a fan of like the austerity cuts, and they have disproportionately impacted women in our country, so she's not like this great feminist icon. And if we look at Andrea Leadsom, who I think personally is worse than May, she's like, she decided not to vote in the whole equal marriage vote. This is not necessarily just about women, this issue, but it's a big issue for me because, you know, I'm bisexual myself, and one day I might want to get married, and the person I get married to might be a woman, and I really value the freedom to be able to do that. I think that we should be able to do that. She decided not to vote because she said, oh, she didn't want to speak for her constituency, which I can kind of get, but then she said that she thought it would hurt Christians a lot if people of the same gender were allowed to get married. So I was sort of like, oh my god. And also she says that she's not a feminist because she doesn't hate men, which just made me like, oh my god. All this stuff is coming out now about these two candidates, which I'm all for, because I don't want people to be personally attacked if they're politicians. Well, nobody should be personally attacked. But I think in terms of policy, when you're actually going for the role of Prime Minister, I think this level of scrutiny is justified. And like Andrea Leadsom has apparently said some stuff about single mothers, like producing drug addicts and criminals and that kind of thing. And also with Theresa May, in terms of her stance on immigration, she sent a lot of refugee women who are in danger of like rape and violence. She sent them back to their countries, and so I don't think either of these women are feminist icons. However, on the other side of the coin, on the flip side, I do think this can be seen as a sort of victory for feminism. Now that's weird because they're not in themselves feminist women, and like I don't support them, but not in terms of them and what they stand for, but just if we look at the way society is reacting to the fact that it's going to be two women going for the role of Prime Minister. Now yes, there is sexism in the media and, you know, people are reacting in a sexist way. However, there's been much less sort of, oh, they can't do it because they're women. A lot of people are just accepting the fact that these are two women, these are two candidates. And in that sense, and only that sense, I think it is a feminist victory. Like, not in the sense that those women are going to be up for Prime Minister, but just in the reaction of the public and looking at how we've changed, maybe, and how, you know, it's people aren't reacting with such, like, oh my god, to the fact that we're going to have a female Prime Minister. Like, that's the only victory. But aside from that, I don't get behind this supporting someone just because they're a woman. And also that kind of goes against the idea of feminism as well, doesn't it? Because I don't want, as a woman, I don't want special treatment. I want to be treated equally and with respect. So if I, for example, I don't want to be Prime Minister ever, I could not handle the stress, but if ever, you know, I was going for Prime Minister, I wouldn't want people to think, oh, I want her to get it just because she's a woman. I would want people to think, I respect her as a candidate, regardless of her gender. I want to look at her policies and what she believes in. So, yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that. I'm really not a fan of either of these women. Yeah, people saying that they're like, let's talk about like Margaret Thatcher again, and they said, people say, oh, she shattered that glass ceiling. Well, she did it for herself, and it's not a woman being in power is not necessarily a huge feminist victory. I mean, let's look at Game of Thrones. Let's look at my lioness, who I love, by the way, Cersei Lannister. But I'm not going to go claiming she's a feminist or some feminist icon, because she has a position of, like, considerable power, but she doesn't use it to help the rights of women. Therefore, it's not a huge feminist victory. Same as Margaret Thatcher, and same as what's going on right now. I hope, I have my fingers crossed, that we're going to get Theresa May. And I think we are, because the Conservative MPs voted on that and she got the highest amount of votes. Currently she's on the highest amount of votes, so I'm hoping we'll get her, just because she is slightly more to the left. We'll cling to anything in this situation. I think we're all so shocked by the situation right now with UK politics that anything seems alright now. As long as it's not Nigel Farage, it's all good. So yeah, but one thing I don't like is, I like I say, I don't support these women, I don't support their policies, but I will never support them being put down in a sexist way or in a way that's demeaning of their gender. I think that these women are not, in my opinion, like, women to be admired. That's just my perspective. But if you're gonna be against these women and bring them down, make sure that is based on what they say and what they do and on their policy, and not based on gendered things, because I know it just makes me so angry. That's what I think about it. People have asked me, so again, this is not like a great articulate video, it's just a talky one. And usually I'd like make points and be like, let's go to the next point and talk about this all properly, but I've just been like rambling round the subject. But yeah, it's a dodgy situation here in the UK with politics right now. I won't get into what's going on with the Labour Party, but can I just say I am so proud of Jeremy Corbyn for, like, sticking to his guns and remaining there, because they thought they could get him out, but they couldn't do it. He's still there. Okay, anyway, that's my personal opinion on the political situation. I appreciate you may have different opinions to me, and I respect that too. And I respect your right to have those opinions and to express them, just as I express mine. So, yeah. Let's be respectful. And also, I think it's a good thing to talk about politics. Even if you think the complete opposite to me, I think it's good as long as it's not offensive and getting at people personally. I think it's good to have a political voice and to put that out there, because I think more people, more younger people should have a voice in politics and, you know, say what they think and maybe learn more about it. I don't pretend to be the most clued in when it comes to politics, but I try my best to educate myself on all different policies and parties. And I think that's all you can do, really, isn't it? It's just try and listen to other people, come to an opinion, and just try and keep your mind broad. So, anyway, I love you loads, and I'll see you really soon. Bye.